go. We're setting up 14. We'll start over. Got caught by lunch. So we're going to do the outside 5 times the total. In this case, it's just x. In this case, it was outside times the total was x plus 3. Well, what is the difference between these two problems? Here, they're telling you the total is x right there. Okay, so that's why it's 5 times x. And over here, it's going to be 6 times what? 10. Don't make that mistake of saying 6 times 4. So 5x equals 60, x equals 12. Questions? Okay. Yeah, it was a little easier because you didn't have to distribute. You're exactly right. All right, now let's do 15. Now let's do 15. So outside x times the total is going to be what?
10 plus 8.
You're right when you say 10 plus x. I'm just in the habit of saying x plus 10. Okay, that's how the book would write it. That's how most times we write it. What do I get over here? 8 times what?
8.
8 times 16, or 8 cubed. So I get x squared plus 10x is equal to 8 times 16 is 256, I'm guessing.
No, 128.
128? I subtract that over and I get x squared plus 10x. That doesn't work. Let's see. Minus 128 is equal to 0. Why did I set it equal to 0? Because I have the 10x, I can't just square root both sides. I've got to factor it and solve it and go from there. What are the factors of 128 that have a difference of 10? Break down 128. What is 128? I can take a 2 out and get 64.
Why don't you just do 8 and 16?
Why don't you do
8 and 16 doesn't have a difference of 10.
I know, but why don't you just factor 8 and 16?
Why don't you let the teacher do it?
Why don't you do the little formula? Just a formula. Can't you use the formula?
What formula?
B squared.
You could.
That'd
You
be longer.
could. But I try to factor first because factoring typically is easier.
8 and 16, 4 and 2, 4 and 4, so you get 4.
How much? Not 4 and 32 doesn't work. 8 and 16 doesn't work. Are there any other choice? It's not very apparent to me which ones are going to work. Take a 2 out and I get 32. I take a 2 out and I get 16. 2 out and I get 8. A 2 out and I get 4. But I'm not sure which one of those is going to give us 10
Why
in
don't
the
you
middle.
just use the formula?
It must not factor. So if it doesn't factor, then what's your reprieve? What's your other choice? Quadratic formula. So let's do that.
A and B plus or minus. Square root.
Negative 10.
Plus or minus.
Quiet, please. Negative 10 plus or minus the square root of what?
B squared minus 4.
100 minus 4 times A times C, negative 128, all over 2 times A. So over 2.
So 400.
So negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 plus
476.
500.
Oh, dang.
512, all over 2. What's 100 and 512?
612.
Right. What is that square root of that? Is it a nice number, 24?
It's 24.73.
So it's not a nice number. That's why it wouldn't factor. So negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 612 all over 2. You can, but you know, probably I'm just going to say round like money. So you would do your two choices. You would do negative 10 plus the square root of 612 all over 2, and negative 10 minus 612 all over 2. This one here is probably going to give you a negative answer. And let me ask you a question. Can x equal a negative value? No. So I'd write that in my notes that you're not going to get any negative values for distances. Okay, if you're finding x and x is a distance, then you're not going to get it. X is not going to be a negative number. So this one here on your calculator, type that in your calculator and see what we get. That's going to be your answer. Hold on. negative 10 plus the square root of 612 equals, divided by 2 equals 7.37. Now that's rounded like money, which is not an exact answer, but you get the idea. So let's review this problem. This problem is the hardest type. If x is on the outside, that's the hardest type. We do the outside times the total, outside times the total. We set it equal to 0 and try to factor first. Or if you're like Danny and you want to go straight to the quadratic formula, there's nothing wrong with that either. It didn't factor, so we ended up going to the quadratic formula, which you can't forget. That's what we did in chapter 3. We solved it down. We did the positive and the negative scenario, except we were able to eliminate the negative scenario. Right? Negative 10 minus negative 10 minus the square root of 612 is going to be a big negative number. So we know that that doesn't work. So 7.37, rounded like money, is our answer. Okay? Hopefully there won't be too many of those.
How do you type in the calculator?
I would do it in parts. I would say negative 10 plus the square root of 612 and then hit equals and then divide by 2.
Okay.
Because if you do it all in one step and you hit divide 2 right here without using parentheses, it just does that rather than all of it together. So I would hit equals, or you could use parentheses and then divide it by 2, and it would do it. It would do it. Would. Maybe, but you might have. You might have to put 2 parentheses because I think it opens it up there. You'd have to close it, and then divide it by 2. Okay. All right. We got one more topic to talk about. Go ahead and stop it. We started up.